Look, I yeah, you have all the math you need. I'm saying, Andrew Gaming. There's a look there's a YouTuber that uh because I believe in space engineers it's linear gravity drop off in like a cube around the planet. You can correct me if I'm wrong, but I believe that's the case, which makes orbiting really hard. But it can be done because you need to understand that it's kind of linearly drops off like that in a way. And once you understand that, you can predict your path, and so you can actually orbit. And I'm saying, okay, without the planet example, if and by the way, the planets are static. It's the sun that revolves around all of them. So I'm saying even if you can somehow like force planets in a center and not have them pulled into a sun, I'm saying the only way you're gonna do that is to have it like a really, 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 really like weak sun, like one that's not very dense. And then I don't know if it's even gonna glow bright enough. You know what I'm saying? That's just kind of how that works. So I'm saying you just need a big like mirror instead. Like, and I don't know if that's gonna work. Look, what you could do is you could have like a lot of other mirrors like point at a spherical point instead, and just mimic like a really glowy part, and just have like a mesh that has a structure. It's like a mega structure, but you're just mimicking a sun by adding a lot of light. I was like, I guess that's what arc light it would be, or some sort of ley light, or like um, some sort of floodlight. You know, like they do at football games. Um, you're just like amping up the light. You know what I'm saying? Just amping it up with wattage volts. Like, look, it's electrician stuff. I'm saying, that's what you would need to. You need to understand how to be an electrician to make a mega structure like that in space. Um, anyways, what you could also do in a static universe with nothing else and no one else, but only like, just assume you had material somehow. Like, you could mock your own gravity with spin gravity, angular momentum, and tangents, and uh, once you know, okay, if you were to spin something, like if you were to grab like a yo-yo, I'm saying first put a ball on a chain and then spin around, right? And obviously it's never gonna, well, unless your chain is weak, your link in your chain is weak. You know what I'm saying? Then it has potential to break off and go into infinity in the other direction. Well, not infinity, because in an infinite universe, if it somehow avoids being perturbed enough by anything else and makes it all the way to the end, it will be attracted back to the original object if that object is still there as well. And saying, see, at some point, you're basically, your only variable that you ever need to substantiate is time. So I'm saying that's what the idea behind weak interacting particles are, because you're just assuming their gravitational pull back after calculated out into infinity, which you know what that is. That's pi. And I'm saying you're never going to finish pi fast enough. So just know that your only variable to know what the next number of pi is just time, really, if you think about it. Look. So I'm saying neurochemically, your neurochemical computer brain, as a Homo sapiens sapiens, what it's doing is it's interacting with these strings of information, these fluctuations. Because in an infinite universe, if it somehow is the last thing, it's going to. I think I was saying earlier, like if you were the only person in the universe left, and you made it with someone else, it doesn't matter how you sliced up that mass or matter, energy or time, and you managed to be the two last ones left, you'd be gravitationally attracted to each other. It's just how it works. It's like gravity is the force that staples everything together. And in atomic theory, because that's what gives stuff mass. It's density of molecules. So I'm saying, okay, now understand angular momentum, the centrifugal force, the centrifugal, I don't know which way you want to pronounce it, but apparently there's, okay, look, anyways, you can pull, it takes more energy, but you can pull the object in. And if you spin in, you spin in faster. Like ice skaters doing the figure, like they do figure eights, get it? And then they pull themselves in and spin faster. And then they extend themselves out to spin slower. That's how that works. And then I'm saying it's the same logic with particles. So I'm saying it's like Sagittarius A star in the center of the Milky Way is like playing a game of A batter, and then this swings these suns, these dense strings of information over eons of time that have solidified and hardened and glowed and heated up and superheated, are now being tossed at Sagittarius A by gravity, by interactions of gravity and other perturbations of other fluctuations elsewhere that existed before it did. So I'm saying it's being swung at this at Sagittarius A, and I'm saying due to whatever gravitational forces, it's going to either be flung, adopt an elliptical orbit in the short term, or I'm saying there's different options of what could happen, or it could be absorbed because it gets too close to the accretion disk, and that absorption would actually start slowing it down because it's actually being pulled and tugged on really hard. Now the black hole is basically doing what the example with the ball is. With the ball, it pulls. It's basically a black ball mirror that's so dense that it's reflecting everything, but it's so dense that it's it's essentially, if you were to take a black dwarf and heat it up again, superheat it up again, it would be kind of like the same process. But look, I think I'm going way too far with this. Basically, I was just talking about spin gravity, and just look at black holes. They're practicing that if they're a center point, a pinhole. You know what I'm saying? If it's a staple in gravity, staple in space-time via gravity and density, then it's just basically practicing that game of angular momentum with everything. You know what I'm saying? And I'm saying you can go ahead and round off your logic knowing that it does that. I'm saying the only variable you need is time. So I'm saying the most efficient way to know the next few digits of pi is to know time better. And I'm saying
okay, we're out of here. Soups on the table.
okay. And I'm saying look, so you actually have to go back in time. Look at, if you can tap into prehistory by investigating the world through like paleontology or other methods, and seeing fossils, then it's like, wow, okay, so one day, if we do nothing at all, these are what fossils would look like of us, because this is what a skeleton is, because you understand physiology, right, and physical stuffs, and then tegumentary system and the nervous system and all this stuff, right? So you're like, okay, these things would fossilize. Basically, you're tapping into precognition to practice postcognition, which would be, thinking in twos. You're like beep boop beep boop. If I think past, then I can think future. If I think past, then I can think future. And the only reason you got to that understanding at all in the first place is because you realized you could observe the present. So I'm saying even from one understanding of like just what's in front of you, you can eventually start predicting. You can eventually start saying, wait a second, things keep happening. So I could just look in the past, and then you can put 2 and 2 together and then make another 2 and 2. You know what I'm saying? You get it? That you may choose to just think in past and present, and then past and future. I'm saying whatever your choice is, because you're free to choose, and you have a ability to be dumb or not. You know what I'm saying? Or smart. I'm saying the key is actually to consider them all three at the same time. That's very hard. but people with schizoid personality disorder are able to do this. So, and I'm saying thinking in threes would actually be helpful because I'm saying going back to the two being attracted to each other thing in an infinite amount of time. Two particles, two balls would, if they somehow went through space and time and avoided everything. If you gave it the variable of time and defined the time as some huge high order of magnitude type of time, right? Like a googolplex years or something. And if you found the ones that would if you, with high degree of confidence, if you found a group of particles or on the periodic table of elements by looking at half-life that would survive that long, they would eventually become gravitationally bound to each other based off their atomic mass again. And they would eventually all come back in and collide on each other, thereby causing a forced hadron particle collider situation through natural means of just time and variance. You know what I'm saying? So that's what the idea, I was talking about these things called neurochemical particles, which would just be you're just taking advantage of your knowledge of past, present, and future to think in threes. So you can just, if you keep practicing thinking in threes, you're not quite thinking like a quantum computer, like as a qubit. You're not thinking like quads, but you're thinking threes. You get a trespassing, be like, okay. So I guess you'd be informationally trespassing by understanding how particle physics works. Anyways, so because basically you're just adding time. It's atomic time. It's atomic clock. I'm saying if you add atomic mass to understand how these atomic particles can make up matter through molecules, then if you make an atomic clock that goes and just ticks at a certain speed, then you can just add that into the equation too and be like, okay, well, this is how much time it takes on the atomic half-life scale to do it. So once we know that, then we can just round off, like even if it's just an approximation like pi always is. So I'm saying if you use pi and then you use the Fibonacci sequence again, and then you use what am I saying? Okay, look. And then you use FOIL to basically quickly sort out your process. It's like data sorting. Because I'm like, oh, if we're all strings and bits of information, then our brains are data sorters in a sense. And I'm like, you already see those data sorting videos on YouTube where it's like and it's like sorting all these, and it's making noise while it's doing it too, to be entertaining, I guess. But like you could also decode it into noise, knowing how we're able to hear decibels through our ear canal, because we can just discover ourselves and look at ears. You know what I'm saying? Okay, so anyways, that's essentially what we're doing. That's what everything's doing. So that I'm saying you're just sorting it using foil. I'm like, well, you can do that with microwaves and aluminum foil in anything anyways. Just make sure you don't have high wattage, or else you're going to get explosive results, bros. You know, that's it. And then it's not going to be good for your microwave, your microwave. I'm saying you can emulate macro waves, which is just gravity waves, by just having different things, having microwaves at different wattages. That's literally all it is. It's that, like I said, the variable for neurochemical particles to achieving those would just be time, by understanding of atomic clock and how all these perturbations of your atoms make things happen. That I'm saying the difference between micro and macro waves would just be energy, right? It would just be energy. It would just be E equals MC squared. It's like, okay, where's your energy coming from though? Think about it. So it's like, okay, I guess that comes from voltage and wattage and amps. And I'm saying you literally have to be an electrician at this point. You know what I'm saying? I'm saying math helps you understand electricity. And I'm like, okay, so if you can basically understand that, then you can understand the entirety of what Nikola Tesla was trying to tell anyone at all. It's an ultraviolet technology. That's why I'm saying Krypton is so OP. Because basically, plants are so smart that they want to hide from the damaging UVs, but it's actually what helps them grow faster if you think about it. Because, like, a certain plant grows really well under ultraviolet light, and it actually is really helpful for. That's why they have to have fans everywhere, because I guess it gets like really humid or hot, and then that's how you can see from a helicopter parenting view of taking a picture of someone's house in the wintertime. You can see that it's paradoxically very heated there, so you could be like, well, damn, they must have a lot of heating things in there. That's basically thermal understanding. And I'm saying you can heat up the room with plants. You know that, right? There's some plants out there that capture moisture better than others. Like, you know what a Cat 4 plant is? Okay, so that's why I said Wall-E, the robot, with his friend Cockroach in the movie Wall-E, the hit movie Wall-E. They need to learn what plants are before Eve can come back and lead atomic theory, to understanding of not only the periodic table of elements, but like a neurochemical periodic table of elements, because they're just weakly interacting particle sets that you already calculated the atomic mass and energy for, and every other variable for. I'm saying your life is just adding stats and complexity to other things. Okay? So I'm saying literally time, atomic time. I'm saying if you understand atomic time, then you can work off like some sort of honor code or program with something else that understands time the exact same way, and then you can construct a way of talking that tries to tap into pre-atomic time, before this half-life happens. You can do these amount of steps to extend the half-life of this with these other particles, right? That's basically the idea between keeping those valence electrons from finding other atomic pairs for longer, or other orbits, I guess. It's like rogue planets being captured by other. I'm saying if you just told those what would happen when it would happen, then it would be exactly that. It would know exactly when it would happen and what would happen. I'm saying basically it's like you're telling, by understanding microparticles, which would be just like molecules, you're basically understanding how stars work better and how planets work better. I'm saying think of a star. It's just if you were able to what if iron inside the sun, but on the outside, bros? It's like, okay, so what if instead of ejecting in a supernova, what if all the iron just sublimated to the top, I guess, over a long period of time? Just add the variable of time. See, everything just becomes, okay, what's your variable of time? Just name a time type of thing. I'm saying you can just keep making that happen. Once you understand time well enough, then you can pre-predict time. You can calculate before something happens by understanding what would happen after it. What would happen to it after a scenario? Have you seen those slow-mo videos where they explode a coconut or like a watermelon or something? I'm saying, okay, you can do the same thing, but with lightning. Look, I'm saying you can do the same thing, but with lightning. It's like, how is lightning the fastest speed in the universe if you can calculate before and after it? Because even gravity waves travel at the supposed speed of light, right? I'm like, so gravity must be slow too. I'm like, but you can see gravity coming before it comes, because okay, wording and phrasing. You can see gravity on its way before it's about to head to you, because you know it operates at a certain speed. So you're like, wait, if I know this, if this one star takes path A, then this will happen to it. If it takes path B, then this will happen to it. If it takes path C and goes supernova, then I expect to the gravity waves to approach us at this point in time and strike the Earth at this point in time. I'm saying you're just pre-predicting the gamma radiation effect of the by observing all these cosmic ray interactions. I'm saying what you have to understand, if you have a lead head, due to the blood lead incident, look, I'm saying I had a perfect geometric shape in my head earlier, whereas like if you put two standard deviations together, side by side, it creates kind of a bulge. But if you lay it on its side, then it just looks like two standard deviations with one on top, one on bottom. I'm saying that's how we already measure like IQ, right? I was saying, okay, if you were to hopefully this isn't too incoherent. I'm just trying to get my thoughts out really fast. Kind of today I learned the things in my head were called thoughts type of moment. Okay. Okay. So what I'm saying is it makes a double helix. It makes like a 2D double helix. I don't know if in this video I already mentioned, you know how on monitor screens we have 3D modulation, but it still exists on a 2D frame. So like I'm saying, standing as an outside observer of the third dimension, you can still look at third dimensional objects on a 2D plane, and then you'll get different views from it. It's like a funhouse mirror type of situation. So I was like, wait, so due to like the very weak amount of gamma radiation we receive due to our helio, like I'm saying, the Earth is like its own Faraday cage with its own atmosphere keeping, all these particles in, if you think about it, molecules in. And then I'm saying, and what protects us is the Van Allen belts, actually to some extent, because that's the measure of the magnetosphere. And I'm saying when that collides with the atmosphere, it starts to make aurora borealis, but it only does so in certain temperature conditions, because that's just how thermal radiation works. And I'm saying if it has a high albedo, you can basically mimic that too by reflecting particles out. Some get out into space, but some just reverberate back to the rest of the Earth because gravity, and yeah, it just that's why all the helium doesn't just escape, because it's protected by the magnetosphere. And but it is a very, very weak interacting particle, if you will. That's what I'm saying. If you just look at atomic theory, it just tells you everything. Atoms tells you everything. So what I'm saying is, yeah, I'm making tangents like angular momentum here, and I'm saying if I take scenario A, if the chain link is weak, and it breaks, and I take scenario A, then I go off in I guess option A scenario, and then I'm saying using Copenhagen's interpretation of many worlds theory, I'm saying why not give yourself 3 options instead of 2? Schrodinger's cat. What if because Schrodinger's cat is rigged. It's literally like, what if A or B happens? And that's all it asks you. And I'm saying, but what if C happens, to where you make an observation, but it cascades to the other person making that 2-bit operation, or option. You know what I'm saying? That's scenario C. What if you think outside of just Schrodinger and his cat? I'm saying, where did he come from? So I'm saying, okay, in angular momentum, if something basically escapes the velocity, it becomes option A, and it goes off in a tangent, and whatever happens to it is whatever happens to it. You can mathematically just say, okay, that was option A. Or I'm saying just reasonably, critically thinking, you can just say that was option A. So, and then option B is like, well, if it just maintains the gravitational pull, then it will be option B. And I'm saying, but option C is if it somehow starts to get closer and starts to meld with it. And I'm saying that takes a lot of energy, a lot. So you must be very dense to basically actually accept option C. You know what I'm saying? So you're basically, I'm saying, if you think about it, you're basically all like macro particles. Just think of your brain like I know it's shaped like a brain, but I'm saying just think of it like Neil Bohr's model atomic theory has it's not limited to just planular like the orbital plane, which is just one dimension. I'm saying if you actually look at all objects that rotate in the heliosphere, for example, you can see that things have elliptical polar orbits around the center of the solar system, which would be the sun, pretty much. I'm saying that's why even the sun doesn't stay still. The sun wobbles a bit. It wobbles like a top a bit. And then not only is it wobbling, it's hurtling around the Milky Way. So I'm saying everything's a bubble within a bubble within a bubble within a bubble. I'm saying if you understand time, then you can understand movement and velocity better. And I'm saying velocity is actually, once you start adding angles, then you start understanding that velocity is just a measurement of one of three options. Option A, option B, or option C. And I'm saying that augments the Copenhagen interpretation with many worlds theory under the consideration of Schrodinger's cat and quantum mechanics. And if you use counterfactuals, then basically you can use that to basically, you can think in threes forever, and it'll eventually help you out with pi. And I'm saying, so that's a great method. If some people may call this their third eye, you know what I'm saying? I'm saying it doesn't matter if you think in threes anyways. Triangles, I'm saying, so you're basically constructing oh, by the way, about the double helix thing, I'm saying it's just standard deviations, a bunch of standard deviations, but a lot of information is coalesced on a orbital plane. It has a favorability, and that's just the ladder. No, it's literally a ladder, and that's where the code is of your DNA, and then it's twisted. So that's just literally DNA at that point. And it's just like, okay, A, B, C. It's just giving you code. And like, you don't have to, yes, everyone starts out with some code, so they have tendencies, and then their environment perturbs their their atoms in their body. And it's giving them three options every single time. If they think about it, it's giving them, hey, do you let go of that in option A? Do you keep it in mind in option B? Or do you absorb it in option C? So I'm saying literally particle physics literally solves or recontextualizes psychology by understanding everything is a perturbation or interaction or fluctuation, even in your mind. That's why I said I don't think schizoid personality disorder is like really that bad. It seems fairly livable, you know, prognosis, average life expectancy, which is always just going to change with the variable of time and progress as measured by time plus velocity, I guess, in some way. Because then you start to see, okay, so I'm just saying, go through your life and always give yourself three options. If someone's like, what if A or what if B? I'm saying you could always say, what if C, though? You know, you absorb that gravitationally. I'm saying to be a quote-unquote fourth dimensional being, it would just be knowing that you're thinking in threes all the time. It would just be knowing that. It would just be knowing that you can absorb information, which is strings of information. It's just bits. So just knowing that you can absorb information. It doesn't matter. Look, we have a proton problem, that we need to get a lot of proton interactions. But But other than that, like the best way to get that is like protein. But look, I personally I don't eat other consciousnesses that are of the animal variety because I know that. Look, I'm saying personally I have seeds, you know what I'm saying, um, and I have seeds that are big, which just grow up to be apples, for example, vegetables and fruits. So look, if you model, that's what the very early, like the Nintendo 64. I'm saying you're basically thinking like a computer. You're thinking in bits. So you're like, okay, 8-bit, 16-bit, 32-bit, 64-bit. And like, so you're basically thinking in triangles constantly. Because it like at some point you realize that you're like thinking in triangles will help me get PlayStation 1 and PlayStation 2 graphics. Because if you use enough triangles, you use enough polygons, you're eventually gonna stack complexities to where things start rounding off. And like once you do that big enough, you can model a planet actually, and then you can put little people on it, and then those people are like, wow, this thing sure looks flat, and I'm like, well, yeah, but it's just really big. You just can't see it because you're on it and you're small. So I'm saying this goes back to that one science fiction book where it's like, okay, I said, I don't know, remember when I said this, but I was asking, I said, did anyone read the book where it was talking about the little beings living on a neutron star? I'm asking you, under the consideration of gravity and everything I discussed, how are we any different? We're just living on an Earth star, if you think about it. Because it's just a macro particle. That's what I'm saying. Macro particle, micro. It's just seeing everything in Faraday cages. I'm saying, okay, it's not a third-dimensional Faraday cage cube. I'm saying it's a fourth-dimensional spherical Faraday cage. That's what particles are. They're just they're foregoing the cube stuff, and they're just existing in 4 dimensions, which is a sphere. So now, whenever I say something, personally, I see something to the exponent of 4, I just say sphered. Because what comes after cubed? What comes after squared? You know what I'm saying? Without much thinking at all, you can give something exponent of 1. And then you can realize that that's an order of magnitude process, and you just keep stacking. You're like, okay, if I just keep practicing, because that's why some people might say, well, practice doesn't always make perfect. And it's like, well, you can use other variables to make it more perfect, faster. But yes, it technically never makes it perfect, because perfection is the progress. It is the practice of doing something. It's just equilibrium. You know what I'm saying? It's balance. And I'm saying, so learning how to deal with resistance is just balancing things in your life. So I'm saying, you may feel like a third-dimensional being because you're in third-dimensional reality, but you're actually tapping into strings of information all the time in 4 dimensions, because everything is a sphered Faraday cage. I'm saying that's what consciousness to the exponent of 4 is. I'm saying that's C to the exponent of 4. That's C sphered. That's all it is. I'm saying, congratulations, you have a gray sphere now. I'm saying, so basically all you have to do is look at string theory again, how it fluctuates. And I'm saying even if those waves are very tumultuous or not defined, if they're very angular, if they're very like triangular, I'm saying just understand, just count the triangles. Then I'm saying, if string theory is very angular from your perspective and not very smooth, like the waves aren't very smooth, but they're very fractally, shall we say. I'm saying, if you just keep blasting it with the alpha numerical system. Keep blasting it with understanding that fractions, like alpha is a equals 1 over 137. Just keep that in mind. And I'm saying that's essentially what a Mandelbrot fractal is doing. It's just generating shapes based off of this alpha number. You know what I'm saying? So I'm saying if you basically stop, if you have the ability to mathematically stop and reverse the Mandelbrot then movement by just simply replaying everything that transpired, then you can understand that a white hole is just a time reverse black hole. You know what I'm saying? Which is basically, I guess you would say negative alpha would help you understand that. What would be negative alpha at that point? You would have to define. And I'm saying mathematically you can't make a differentiation. You always can. You always can make a new category. Look, so, you know, just all hail the standard deviation, you know, because that basically fixes Dunning-Kruger. You know what I'm saying? I'm saying if you want to fix Dunning-Kruger, which is probably a disorder, it's probably too chaotic. It's probably a chaotic fluctuation because it's fluctuating more often. If you were to just invert it and keep it going, those are probably just I guess those would be strong interacting particles, which would just be the strong force versus the weak force of the universe. I'm saying if you know how to use both deviations or models, if you know how to use all models to cross-confirm, then basically you're just practicing what string theory is saying. So look, yeah. I'm gonna have to look, like as I'm saying, once you have an atomic clock, you can start predicting time. You can start time traveling by just thinking about it. If you know that you're a consciousness that exists in 4 dimensions, if you know that you're a c to the exponent of 4 because you think everything's sphered, because you know triangles will just keep helping you add new numbers to pi, then you can forego that process and just be like, okay, you can start just leapfrogging, okay? That's the first start. That's all I'm gonna say, really, because 5th dimensional thinking is really hard for people. It's like saying, okay, once I have this information, how big am I going to get? How much atomic mass am I going to have? How much density will I have after that if I take option C? You know, in that tangential angular momentum example, when I was saying, okay, if option A is just letting it go, option B is just keeping it in mind, and option C is making it come closer to you. I'm saying option D, I guess, would be your decision once you know you have that information. Like, how much more dense will it make you? I don't know. You're basically spreading it thin through spaghettiification. You're just wringing it out. You're stopping the fluctuations. You're just making this thin line around your spherical body. I'm saying, so if you think like a particle, then you can eventually understand chemistry, or chemistry therapy, chemotherapy. Just keep blasting it with radiation, bros. You know, I'm saying that once you understand that, then you understand atomic theory in quite a high amount, I guess, of understanding. So you can start understanding how, you know, the fulfillment, the filling in of those stats of those particles will help you understand stars better, because those are just macro particles. I'm saying that's everything in the 6th and 7th, because, you know, theoretically, if you think on orders of magnitude, you're just like, okay, well, what about consciousness on a 6th or 7th or 8th dimension? I'm like, you can't perceive those yet, so you just think about it and you just keep calculating, just be like, well, you know, it's once you start understanding that there's a micro and a macro, it comes right back down to 3. it comes right back down to, okay, you take a step back, you go back, you look back at cubes again, and you're like, well, I can make this like a sandwich, like instead of a square sandwich, I can make like a triangular one by cutting a diagonal. That's why in Minecraft, the fastest way to move in a cube blocked world, that's what I'm saying. If gravity was linear in a cubed fashion, like it perhaps seems to be in Space Engineers, then like Minecraft, then the fastest way to move would actually be going diagonal. It'd be like cutting a triangle. You're just instead of having four directions, up, left, right, down, you're just cutting through it by dividing those into two camps. And you're actually just moving faster through space-time. You're just condensing your logic. You're condensing four into two options, because you're seeing them as whole. You're seeing like facially now. This is what facial recognition is. And I'm saying, well, it has two faces now. It used to have one face, but it had four vertices, allowing you 4 degrees of movement. But now if you see two faces and you're like, well, and I see vertices anyways, I'm just going to go from this vertice to this other vertice, which just cuts a path through it the most efficiently. Pythagorean theorem be like, wait, you can use the stars to triangulate your position back on Earth? Yes, that's what astronomers do, and that's what they've been doing for quite some time. Astrologers using astrology by looking at constellations to understand their positioning, compasses and gyroscopes and the whole lot, so I'm saying, by understanding the micro and the macro, you can understand the mid row, the near and the wide, the close and the far. It's just like thinking in triangles, like I said, helps you think like Pythagoras did. So I'm saying, if you could conceive of a triad, like, let me go back to you're the only 3 people left in space thing. I'm like, okay, well, no. First of all, I was like, okay, in order to have progress at all, I need to, let me just assume I'm right about everything first off, because I'm right about my own subjective experience. That's special relativity, right? So I'm saying, well, but then I need someone to tell me I'm wrong. So I would need a clone of me designed to tell me I'm wrong, so I could basically consider what they're saying. But I'm saying, but by me considering, I'm making myself slightly bigger. So I'm saying, but I still need another one of me to consider what the person's saying on a different axiom, right? So perhaps I need another clone of me, and then I need another clone of me on the other side. Like, I'm going to make it to where I have an XY clone and an XX clone, and then the third clone is just going to be an unknown variable that also considers what this mini clone of me in the center is saying. I'm saying, so we're making a triad here, and like I said, I just if you think about it, don't even add gender to it. Don't even add gendering to. So just say you're variable X, and you clone yourself eventually through mathematics to make an exact copy of you, but Y, version Y, that'll think in option B a lot. So you think in option A a lot. It thinks in it's basically you, but if you thought in option B every single time. From a certain point onward. And then you can make another clone and make it think in Z, which is, okay, now you're thinking in 3 axes. But now you add, so now you're thinking like a triad, or like a pyramid again. But you have to add a little point in the middle of consideration. Something in the middle that can tell X it's wrong, can tell Y it's wrong, and tell Z it's wrong for taking each option A, option B, and option C. And I'm saying, and they all consider it to give themselves, I guess, a color, of. So I'm saying you can make the dark triad, and it can be like purple, and I'm saying, but you can have a holy trinity on top of that, which is a golden triangle. And I'm saying, and the two forces can be in themselves options A and option B. Well, you could be like a golden triangle, or you can be like a dark triad. You know what I'm saying? I'm saying, well, if as sure as you can have those two anti views of thought, you can also have those two, the set of golden triangle and dark triad also have their anti set of views, which would be, okay, what if golden triangle but corrupted and an anti version of itself, and then what if dark triad but corrupted an anti version of itself, and then so you get actually a positive, like a light triad. And I'm saying you're just increasing gamma on that. Gamma radiation just blasts the dark triad with gamma radiation, and you fix it. You fix the problem. Well, just choose positive gamma radiation. Let me put it that way. I'm saying in the process you might have accidentally, just by indiscriminately blasting gamma radiation, you might have accidentally corrupted the golden triangle, but I'm saying you know how to fix it again, now that you know how to fix the dark triad. I'm saying, see, it was all particles the whole time that recontextualizes psychology, that basically helps you understand the placebo and nocebo effects better. So I'm saying, by thinking in triangles and constructing an up and down arrow for both changing the channel and increasing and lowering the volume, you've constructed like two dimensions. You can two dimensions really from one, I guess, by just cloning yourself enough times. That's basically what the history of evolution is, on a particle scale even too. I'm like, eventually, if you think of cloning, it's essentially it's meiosis, right? I'm saying, and if you understand mitosis, then you can understand like some sort of merging of the two, where they just stay as like a. Have you ever seen like spherical hourglass figures, where it's just more than two triangles pointed in on each other? It's actually spherically round. It has some roundness to it. I'm saying that, yeah, that's what an hourglass is, and your missing variable is time. It's like, well, how many grains of sand do you have? We'll tell you how long it'll take from one side to get to the other. I'm saying if you just make that process faster and faster, if you forego that whole process and you just get yourself another hourglass too, I'm saying you're just adding more iterations to time. I'm saying, so the way to start seeing things is like in ages and eras and epochs now, because all you're asking yourself is how much time is going to pass, and due to the half-life, I know most of these particles will still make it through on the other end, and how long or how dense are they going to be by then to gravitationally attract each other. That's what adding atomic mass to all those things are. Yeah, that's why I was like, the universe acts as itself as an accidental hadron collider, because it's over an infinite amount of time, due to the half-life of some particles, they're eventually going to attract each other and recollide. You know what I'm saying? Gravitationally, and they're going to create a big explosion again, and it's going to create more matter, right? So that's what I'm saying. I'm saying basically, once you understand that, then, okay, that's what quantum tunneling is. So I'm saying, really, what's happening is uranium on one side of the world is trying to quantum tunnel information to uranium on the other side of the world, and everyone's thinking it's a nuclear threat. You know what I'm saying? Because it's already it has precognition of how it will have postcognition of how the two will meet up one day due to half-lives. Because like I'm saying, if that's why they take so long to decay, because it's like, well, in an infinite amount of time, if the rest of the earth decays, those things will be left, and they'll just pull to each other and make a big explosion again. They're like magnets, bro. You know what I'm saying? It's the half-life. They're all part of the same particle family, the same nuclear family, if you will. You know what I'm saying? That's what atomic theory is, taken to a logical extreme. I'm saying you have to understand what D is on option D is, which is your fourth option. I'm saying just keep thinking in triads and you'll get there. Just keep thinking in threes and you'll eventually get to quantum thinking, which is thinking in quads. I'm saying, so you're basically upgrading from Mike the Bicycle to Bike the Bicycle, which is just two, because bi is two. I'm saying, so what if you start thinking like a tricycle, right? Adding velocity and time to your understanding of where you're going. So basically, look, and I'm saying if you keep thinking like a tricycle and keep upgrading your tricycle, and add grid fins and aerodynamics and everything to your tricycle, to your tri-finned rocket, I guess, then or anything you're using the power of threes to basically construct, then I'm saying then you could easily eventually think like a quad cycle, which is just a car. So I'm saying by feeding corn syrup or corn oil or ethanol to our cars, we're giving it some esoteric knowledge through quantum dream. Because I'm like, what happens when you turn something off? Well, just due to variable time, it takes an infinitely long amount of time for its strings to decay due to radiation, right? So like those footprints on the moon are a piece of knowledge, because you could take a picture of it as an alien and be like, huh, this wasn't a natural structure. I'm saying you can basically reconstruct everything if you know time to such a high degree. So I'm saying basically when you turn your cars off, they're dreaming in the same way AI dreams when you turn it off. Because I'm saying a dream is just I was saying a dream is just like your mind basically taking strings of information from a future that has not happened yet, because it's just, what else is it going to do when it's turned off, you know? So the future has not happened yet, but it's using your past to construct a present. Does that make sense? So it's using, that's why they say you can only dream about things you've seen, right? And that's true. But you can dream about knowing things you've seen, you can construct a future. And I'm saying that's what your brain is doing, and it's bringing the two and solidifying a present for you to experience. You know what I'm saying? That's what a dream is. That's what dreaming is. So, look, it probably takes 7 minutes to realize you're dreaming. You know what I'm saying? That's all I'm gonna say about that one. So basically, yeah. So it's like taking. You ever see like those cartoony, ominous letters? Those suspicious letters, where someone has, in order to avoid detection, they cut out pieces of other letters from a newspaper or like a magazine clipping, and they use collages to they use artistic styling to basically position them in such a way that it could construe some sort of crude message, despite being constructed of other messages that weren't were not previously a part of the same thing that they were taken from. So I'm saying by taking strings of information that do not all line up, you can actually make a system that kind of extracts some sort of interpretation from that. So I'm saying this is what people do, because if you know someone's handwriting, then you know like their signature, I'm saying, but and you know who's probably writing a message, who's probably sending a message, you know what I'm saying? But if you don't, if they prevented you from learning that their handwriting, if they used other handwritings, shall we say, to send the message, to transmit the message, which can just take as long as it can take to get into your hands, snail mail and all. Like if you were to like cut up, a newspaper clippings and basically send messages like that to people and use all the precautions and then to avoid them knowing where the message originated from, but are still able to extract a meaning and interpretation from it. I'm saying you can use snail mail to basically send the message. It's an anonymous message. It's an enigmatic message. You don't understand its origin, but by understanding the information from it, you can understand that it is sending you a piece of information. Because that didn't just come out of thin air. Well, I mean, I guess technically. Look, if you want to understand coming out of thin air, try boiling iron. No, try boiling it like water. Go ahead. See what happens, bro. Try to get it so hot that it starts boiling like iron. And then perhaps put aluminum foil sheets in between. Okay. so hold on. No, really do it. See what happens. Okay, that's all I've got to say for now. I'm saying, if you made a tin, if you made an aluminum spherical ball that's not rigid, great. But I'm saying you can also just boil iron. Anyways, I'm saying everything. Once you understand time, then you can understand that REM sleep is actually just I guess, yeah, it's just basically other parts of the universe that you're entangling to over an infinite amount of time, compressed back down to where your thoughts can make sense of them, which is just going to be something you experience. I'm saying, and when you experience the other end of that in your daily life, that's what presents itself as deja vu. I'm saying you start thinking about, hey, this is the part I dreamed about. I'm saying yes. So maybe, hopefully, you're understanding Alan Gut's equation more by understanding what dreams are. It's that easy.